Hello everyone and welcome back to Ruby Lessons in Codecademy. So in the last video we finished off the section of control flow completely, and today we're going to have a project and we're going to be using control flow. And if you haven't watched any of the videos in the previous section, so the last 4 videos I believe, I would highly recommend that you watch them because control flow is very useful and we're going to be using it today as well. So today we're going to be building a Duffy Duckifier. So if you've never watched Duffy Duck or never heard of him, I would urge you to Google the name and see what it is, because otherwise you won't know why we're doing this. Watch some cartoons, like the first minute or 2 of it, and you'll see what I mean. So back to programming then. Now that we can direct our program using if, else if, and else statements, we can produce different results based on different user input. So in this project, we'll combine control flow with a new Ruby string method to Duffy Duckify a user string, replacing each s with th, so th. Instructions: click Save and Submit Code to see the Duffy Duckifier in action to start building your own. So we have print string please. User input gets.jump, so that cuts off the new line character. Then user input.downcase, we're lowercasing it. If user input includes s, then we replace the s with th, else nothing to do here, and then put your string is and whatever the user string is. Okay. So now that we kind of know how it works, roughly, let's try it out. So this is my newest string I am giving to you. Take good care of it. There we go. Good. So it works quite well. From what I can see anyway, I don't see any s's left, so that is good. Let's move on. Getting user input. First we should print a statement to prompt the user for input, then set that input to a variable using gets.jump. So use print to ask the user for input, as we have done many times before. Input please. No, input your sentence please. And I'm not going to Duffy Duckify my output, here anyway, just for convenience. And then we need to declare a variable called user input and set it equal to the user's input using gets.jump. And we do that so that it affects this straight away. If we do that, we should be fine. Good. So as you remember, hopefully, the exclamation mark is basically there to say user input gets.jump user input. So it's doing gets.jump to user input and assigning it to user input. Moving on. Downcase. We want to make sure we capture both s and s in the user's input. We could write separate if-else statements to handle this, but we can also use downcase exclamation mark, for the same reason we have an exclamation mark here, to convert the user's input to all lowercase. That way we only have to search for a lowercase s, one s, instead of having multiple if branches as it says before. Instructions: call the .downcase method on the user input. Okay, so user input equals .downcase exclamation mark. There we go. You can also do user input equals user input .downcase. So this line and this line, this line and this line do the exact same thing, but this one is more readable, you can understand it better, but this one is much shorthand. So if you're typing out in a hurry, and if you're using Ruby especially, this one is usually better, from what I've seen anyway. So make sure to include the exclamation marks, which we have done, so that the user's string is modified in place. Otherwise, Ruby will create a copy of user input and modify that instead. And you don't want a copy of it, you want it to be assigned to itself. Input your sentence please. This is my Since, whatever. It doesn't matter how you spell it, as long as it's something. Good. Setting up the if branch, part 1. Alright, time to add in a little control flow. So for the if half of our branch, we want to check whether the user's input contains an S. So how do we do that? Because we haven't learned it yet. Let's first of all set out the branching, else and end, just so that I don't forget it later on, and it's much nicer like this. We can do that by using Ruby's include question mark method, which evaluates to true if it finds what it's looking for and false otherwise, so if it doesn't find what it's looking for. As a general rule, Ruby methods that end with a question mark evaluate the Boolean values true or false. So as a general rule, there probably are some exceptions. Instructions, we want to check user input for the substring S, or character S in this case. Write an if statement in the editor. It should check to see if user input includes S. So if the string we are checking is user input dot include question mark, and then we have the substring, which in our case is S. So if this evaluates to true, so basically if there is an S, then we want to do an operation to user input to change the S to TH. For now, print a string of your choice to the console if it finds S. Okay, I'm actually going to puts, and I would rather have a puts there as well. Hopefully it doesn't mess anything up. There we go. No, okay. It's not fine. It looks like your if statement syntax isn't quite right. User input dot include S. What am I doing incorrectly here? Okay, I will be back in a second. Okay, so basically the problem was that I didn't have an end here, and also it's better to use print edges. So if you do puts, that's how you enter it. Also, another error I made was putting string there instead of print for some reason. I don't really know why. So if you do it like this, the way it is now, you should be fine. Oops, nope, not that. This way. This way, print. Good. So before we move on, I also want to do something else. So else, there is no S in your string. So if I don't enter an S, there is no S in your string. Good. Moving on. Setting up the if branch part 2. Good, now let's complete our if statement. When we find S, we want Ruby to replace every instance of S it finds with th. We can do this with the .gsub, so substitute, which stands for global substitution. The syntax looks like this. So we have the string to change, which in our case is going to be user input .gsub with an exclamation mark there, which signifies that we're doing user input equals user input.gsub. And then our arguments are what we're replacing and what we're replacing it with. So in this case we're replacing S with th. When we get to later lessons, we'll explain why the /s/ has to be between slashes instead of between quotes. Note you cannot put a space between gsub. What does it mean by that? And the bit in parentheses. Oh, okay. You can't put a space between there. Remember, you want the exclamation mark at the end of the method name so that Ruby will change the string in place. So instructions, remove the print statement you added your if statement and replace it with a call to gsub on user input. So basically do this. And we can easily do that. Actually, do we have to replace it or can we just keep it? I'd rather keep it, to be honest. Okay, good. So we can just keep it. There is an S in your string. The first letter was an S and it got replaced with TH. Good. That is what we were looking for. Setting up the else branch. The hard part's over. Now we just need to let the user know if we don't find any instances of the letter S. And I have actually already kind of done that. Add an else statement that displays a string to the user to let them know if there are no S in their string. Oh, actually, I didn't do puts there. Well. And also I want to do a puts. Your sentence is, and was it this? Oops, no, not that. This and user input. Okay, so that's that. I also want to try out if I do not have an S. Yeah, good. So your sentence is that, and I do not want that O there. So you don't have to do this line, but I'm going to do it so that there's an output, output of the sentence entered in any case. And looking from what we're doing, I don't think that we're actually going to need an else if statement in there. Submit code, enter the sentence, and good, we can move on. Returning the final string or string. Home stretch. Now we want to display the Duffy Duckifier string to the user, because that's basically what we want the program to do. You can do that using the string interpolation. Yeah, I hopefully I pronounced that correctly, we learned earlier. So, the way I did this basically. My string equals whatever your string is, in this case user input is going to be whatever the user input is, then we print something, and then between here we can print my string. And that's going, in this case, this example is going to print adios muchachos. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that correctly as well. Sorry anybody from Mexico, I hope, and Spain. Please don't roast me in the comments. Instructions. So add a put statement that uses string interpolation to show the user their transformed string. Okay. Puts your Duffy, let's actually spell this out correctly. And then I will do that. Save and submit code. Good. All of the S's got replaced with a TH. Also, I believe that there is another way to do this as well. Without the interpolation, you can just do... Oops, did not mean to do that. There, put out there, and input. If I do that, I think I'm going to get the exact same result. Oh, and I actually need to do print there so that it's on the same line. So you can do either thing, you're going to get the same result. Ignore the nil there, that gets printed from Ruby, from Codecademy, as I've mentioned before. So you can use either this line or this line to get the exact same result. I just wanted to add something extra in there. Congratulations! Great work! How might you improve this project? So, how we can... Once you're done with a program, you should think how you can improve it, how to make it more efficient so that it requires less memory, less CPU usage, whatever. So that it can even run on maybe older computers, for example. Although this program isn't quite demanding as, for example, some other games, you still might want to think about it. So you could add an additional if statement to re-prompt the user for input if they don't enter anything. Oh, okay, so it's thinking of on the lines of what could you do in case of an error. You can, sometimes you might see try and accept used. Those are quite a good thing to get into the habit of using, so that in case there is an error, they will get caught. Look that up on Google. I'm not going to go into much depth for that, because it's not that difficult to learn if you want to learn it. So we could also think about how you might account for words in which the letter C sounds like an S. So you could use a dictionary in that case. So feed your program a dictionary and tell it which words have the C sound as an S and not a co or something else. And you might specify those and change the C to a TH in those cases as well. That might be slightly more complicated, so the second point you might not want to do just yet. Think about how you might preserve the user's original capitalization. So the best way to do that is just to, instead of doing downcase here, just to keep it the way it is and check both uppercase S and lowercase s's. And if you're doing C's, then check both uppercase C's and lowercase C's, and replace them maybe with a capital TH in both cases if they're capitals. So enough pondering for now. When you're ready, click 7 submit code to complete this project. 7 submit code. Let's see what we have done then. This is my newest sentence. Take care of it. And because we have two ways of printing it out, we have two outputs. And we also got a badge, and hopefully more points, I think, so. Good. So, all of the S's have been replaced with TH, and we are satisfied. So if you have any questions, then do feel free to ask in the comments down below. If you enjoyed watching this video, if you learned something from it, please give me a like, share, and subscribe, it helps me out. But other than that, until next time, enjoy your day or night, and goodbye.